In The Gay Science, Nietzsche famously, through his madman, proclaims the death of God and that we have killed him. As you note, this is, probably what most people know him for. However, there is a tremendous amount of complexity here that emerges out of this statement that connects with existentialism and particularly Sartre, which we'll connect with Sartre more specifically a little bit later on in this. Nietzsche was very much interested in this connection between humans and suffering. And he saw a particular role that gods or has played in this relationship. Why was Nietzsche interested in suffering, and how did he connect this with gods?
Yeah. So I mean, I think that Nietzsche was interested in suffering just because there's so much of it. Uh, you know, there's suffering throughout history. If you only need to read uh, history of it, pretty much any period, and it's just a relentless tale of pain and suffering. And his concern was how we can manage to go on living our lives in the face of this sort of onslaught of awfulness. And what he thought was that, like, suffering is very bad, but we can cope with it if we think that it's for a reason. So we make ourselves suffer if we think that it's for good reason. You go to the gym, you don't necessarily enjoy going to the gym, but you're doing it in order to achieve some goal, right? No pain, no gain. So well, okay, suffering is made less bad if we can think of it as having a justification in that way. And that's his explanation of religion, essentially. He thinks, look, all sorts of there's so much suffering in the world that can't be given a straightforward worldly explanation. Like, that suffering is okay because it created this good outcome. There's all sorts of terrible things happen in the world that can't, it seems, be justified in that way. This is sometimes known as the problem of evil in the philosophy of religion, right? So, and there, the thought is that's a reason to think that there is no benevolent God, because given all of this unjustifiable evil, a benevolent God would prevent it. But that's not quite Nietzsche's thought. Nietzsche's thought is that there's a sociological explanation that can be given of why it is that we believe in God or gods, which is that it justifies the suffering, or gives meaning to the suffering that we undergo in life. And there's various different versions of that. So his explanation of the ancient gods seems to be that well, they enjoy watching us suffer. Their attitude towards us is one of cruelty, or they watch us like we might watch a play or Netflix. Right? So we're enjoying watching fictional characters suffer on TV. The gods are enjoying watching mortals suffer, and that, although it doesn't seem like a very pleasant explanation, is at least an element of Nietzsche's explanation of the genesis of the ancient gods, is the thought that, well, suffering is bad, but at least it's serving that function. It's for a reason. The monotheistic religions, he gives a slightly different spin on, but it's a version of the same story. But there, the idea is the more familiar one, that we suffer in this world in order to make it more likely that we are rewarded in an afterlife. So, the bad things that happen in this world are made up for by what goes on in the afterlife. And Nietzsche thought that just that recognition that there's this sociological story that says, look, here we are, we're confronted with meaningless suffering. That suffering would be more bearable to us if we could give it an explanation. Here's an explanation, a supernatural one, that says that suffering can't be justified by any ordinary, mundane means, but can be justified if we think of it in supernatural terms. So we're going to invent gods or God. He thinks that the very existence of that sort of explanation should lead us to be highly dubious about religion, highly dubious about the sort of the metaphysical element of monotheistic religion, the idea that there is a God. And that's not for the same reason as the problem of evil says, look, God is good. God, if God was all powerful, he should be able to prevent suffering, and he doesn't. Therefore, there probably isn't one. It's rather a sociological sort of undermining of the belief. It says that your belief that there is a God really has nothing to do with whether or not it's true that there's a God. It's all about serving this psychological function of making suffering bearable. And so that's, as I see it, at least, the sort of the core line of thought that leads up to this idea that God is dead, whereby that really means that, we educated late 19th century intellectuals can't take the idea of God seriously anymore. So the idea of religion and everything, importantly, that stems from it, and he thought that was a lot, needs to be rethought.